Geez. Cheers again. Hello, new tradition.
All right. New year. How are you feeling, Papa Jordan? How are you feeling?
It's good to be alive. Good to be alive. Like Pimple says, every day above ground is a good day.
So, Pitbull, what was Pitbull like this year? Third year in a row.
Third year in a row. It's fun to dance with the family, celebrate together. A lot of positivity. He has some good messages, and it's fun to dance to his music. I don't agree with all his lyrics, but we don't need to go there, do we?
No, a lot of good messages, though. And I think the new year, we have our family word of the year. This past year was presence, so maybe you want to explain what the new word is.
New word
came
down to two words. Finalists were grit and cariño, which is a Spanish word. And Cariño won, although I think grit was given a good defense or projection by Bernadette, right? That was her word. But we had probably 15 words. Came down to those two, and Cariño reminds us of an article that came out in Notre Dame magazine a couple of years ago when Lucas Barreto was an undergraduate. He's now very involved, obviously, with Let's Share the Sun and Jordan Energy in Puerto Rico. But our good friend, our great friend, John Nagy at Notre Dame magazine wrote an article that there's not an easy translation for the word cariño into English. But you know it when you see it and feel it, and it's a warm word of affection. It has like a little bit softer connotation than grit is like harder, working through problems. Cariño is affectionate, showing affection, warmth and affection that we certainly experience a lot in the Puerto Rico trips on Let's Share the Sun and elsewhere for that matter.
Yeah, I was describing it to a friend as something that you feel, especially when you're in a home with somebody that's very hospitable.
Yeah, it's as simple as offering coffee for a break, which is one of the common customs in a coffee growing area like at Juntas in Puerto Rico.
Yeah, no, and I think there's something about sharing a cup of coffee, sharing a glass of wine. I think there's a nice giftology, a gift that we gave of sharing some bottles of wine this Christmas season. And that comes after some great conversations with different wineries, one being Lakewood, the Finger Lakes.
Yeah, we had a nice visit there, gave some of their wine. They're looking at a phase 2, right?
Yeah, so, a big topic I came through and, wrote about within this recent article was preserving, a way to connect with people and, preserving a way of life too as farmers. I know there's what you see and what you hear on, TV of what farming is like, and then what you feel when you're in the day-to-day living in rural America. And I really appreciate what Ben talked about in the sense of, the positives within the farming lifestyle of what it means to, have a lot of hard work, but at the end of the day, find more meaning in it. And Chris had a really great quote too about not just at the end of the day feeling worn out, but feeling like you really put that work in.
Yeah, so I don't know if people know, but Chris and Liz are the older generation now that have been farming Lakewood Winery and Vineyard for several decades. And it is a nice family business. Both Ben and Abby, took off from the family farm and got experience in places like Australia and New Zealand. I think Wilmette Valley there in Napa Valley. And now they're at a stage in their lives where they're kind of fully engaged back at the family farm for the next generation. It's nice to see.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, there's definitely something to that small farm energy. And a big topic we talked about was the need for small farms and communities and the power that they have within those spaces to connect people. And we laughed about a grape stop event, and there's definitely something to that point of where our farming industry, agriculture is moving with consolidation of farms. And yeah, I mean, I showed you yesterday our article that Greg reposted from AFT about, where a lot of farms are moving in terms of consolidation and whatnot. So, yeah, more important time than ever to impact farms, especially in all areas of life for an individual. And for us, that obviously comes with getting one of their highest costs down.
Yeah, it's a great family business. I think we oftentimes talk about the books that we're reading and how is a family farm successful. There's many examples of those that break up because there's a number of factors, but maybe disunity is a word that comes across. You sense the level of unity in Lakewood with the Stamp family. One of the books I'm reading now is called The House of Mondavi, which the Mondavi family is a well-known Napa Valley winery. And Robert Mondavi's name is better known than his brother Peter, but it's an interesting history of, on one level, success and notoriety, but broken up family that can work together. So what is the teamwork and the way that you can work well together as siblings, as intergenerational family? I think it was impressive to see how they communicated with each other. And it's also a lesson how any team communicates with each other, if they're family or not. It's a great book. You got one right here, The Psychology of Money. It's nice to share some of the thoughts on what we're reading in relationship to what we're doing in the work realm.
Without a doubt, yeah. And I think so much of that is how we're learning from our team and then also our customers. And I think this video here is definitely one that it'll be great to watch and reflect on and talk through these themes within family businesses. So
Do it.
The strength of the agriculture community is small farms, individual farms, and community, not corporate farming in my mind. I think if agriculture is going to continue to innovate, which it has to do moving into the future, it always has done. I don't think that happens in a world where all of our agriculture is consolidated. I think the rate of consolidation in agriculture is unsustainable right now. I think it's bad for ag in general. I really feel like small farms are the basis for ag innovation, and seeing them all kind of scooped up together under huge corporate banners or purchased by private equity interests is concerning to me. I don't think that doesn't speak to me about American agriculture and the innovation that we're known for.
Yeah. Our mission of Jordan actually is to solely with and strengthen the family farm. That's just, this is a cost for all. That same thing, the corporate nature where our society is moving in agriculture is that, we were talking about this earlier, it's easy for kids, right? Younger generation to look at farming lifestyles. Oh, this is hard, right? And move away from that. And that consolidation topic, it takes family farmers coming together. It's important, but not just family farmers, but society as a whole. Right?
Just support family farms and smaller agricultural enterprises for sure. Because if that's gone from your community, I mean, who are you going to call when an agricultural issue comes up in your community if all the farmland is owned by a private equity firm? You have a hard time getting hold of something. And that's not the kind of communities that we want to live in, I don't think. There's a lot of value in the lifestyle. As we were chatting earlier, farming, if you look at it, it's a lot of really hard work. And you could probably, if you're willing to work that hard, you could probably make more money doing just about anything else, especially with all the ingenuity that has to go into farming. That said, there are a lot of things that go along with that. You know, it's a great way to raise a family. It's a great place to kind of really live your values more actively than might have an opportunity to in other professions.
Yeah, it does. It gives you the opportunity to go home at the end of the day feeling satisfied, not just used or worn out. So
That's a beautiful testimony. I think that, yeah, so fast in our lifestyle, it's society, so it's good to slow down. When I think of wine, I also think of like slowing down to the time of wine.
So we've been chatting about that a little bit internally. Like, there's a bit of a disconnect, generationally about what wine really means, and you see some of the younger generation that have the epidemic of loneliness or whatever. There's this kind of gap where people feel really isolated and lonely, and the pace of life these days, the pace of technology itself is isolating. Wine is not. Wine is real. Wine is authentic, and that brings people together. Wine is social. Wine can be the antidote to that kind of thing. It has been in cultures around the world for thousands of years. So we're kind of glad to be able to be a part of that and add to that level of engagement, because I think that people need that now, maybe even more than ever. So.
That meaning of connecting and the meaning of wine in our culture of isolation and fast-paced changing society definitely holds true and strikes a chord.
Yeah, I mean, not the only beverage. I mean, in Puerto Rico with Leche de Sun, it's the Cariño of offering a cup of coffee, café con leche. Ultimately, that's harvested from that same community, the way the grapes are at a winery and a vineyard. So I think a lot of good points from Ben. You see how he's matured, over the years, and they have a great communication. And they're a setting that helps to facilitate community. So does their product. It's pretty dramatic, the drop off on consumption of wine. So that's concerning on the level of seeing that not only in the Finger Lakes at their winery, but recently Sonoma County Wine Growers Association Farm of the Future Summit, pretty dramatic drop off on the purchase of grapes by the wine industry for grape growers out there as well. So need for diversification, and within the diversification, energy presents itself as a really unique opportunity.
Without a doubt. Yeah. Going back to one thing Ben said about, you can make a lot more money if you're willing to work this hard at, just about anything else, and then, goes into the values that are within the agricultural lifestyle. I think of this book, Psychology of Money, and lessons on wealth, greed, and happiness, and more than halfway through it now, and I think there's definitely something to that of what fills your cup and what sustains us.
Yeah, there's the one chapter where I think it might have been an author, or maybe it was Kurt Vonnegut, that said, in a very opulent setting where the hosts were just hugely wealthy, when is enough? And Ben's point in that quotation is, you can make more money doing anything else, but what makes for a successful and fulfilled and happy life, and the community aspects around the farm community is appealing to both his father and mother's generation, and his and his sisters.
Without a doubt. I mean, connecting with your local farmers definitely is really important, and it definitely, it's something that within the corporatization of the industry is, I think, more valuable today than ever.
there's a trend that's going to continue to have local identification and a sense of relationship, even as the consolidation phenomenon continues. So there's a possibility for, I think, coexistence in their society.
Yeah, without a doubt. I mean, that reminds me of interview with Jason Storm where he talks about what he'd like to see within the future of farming and how important it is to connect with the farmer.
What did Jason say, as you remember it?
Yeah, I mean, it was a dynamic of giving a story of him having a bunch of Boy Scouts come to the farm and them, he couldn't get them to leave.
He had things to do.
Yeah, but, there's something to that dynamic. I mean, I remember being a kid at 13 doing 400 hours plus a community service at the food bank farm. And, I think that opened my eyes to perspectives of what it means to grow food. And I definitely started eating more vegetables.
Yeah.
That's for sure.
What I think in the future is people need to know where their food comes from. People need to be involved with that. As our country and our people get so far away from farming, this is a great way of life. It's great to see where your food comes from. People love to see it that are from a city. They just come here. And to me, what's like every day, I mean, we had a bunch of Boy Scouts come here the other day and they wouldn't leave. I'm like, hey, I got to go. And finally it was like, I told their troop leader or whatever, like, you can stay here as long as you want, but I got to, because they just loved it,
Yeah.
And people need to see that. That's like farming doesn't exist this way, and animal farming, like, especially, unless people see and understand what we're doing and why we're doing it and how we're providing food for the country relatively cheaply while still taking good care of the animals. If people don't know that, that's when farmers are like maybe 5% of this whole country. And so you have 5% of the country feeding everything, but 95% making decisions that affect that 5%. So it's really important as farmers that we get out the message of what we're doing, how we're trying to help, and how we're feeding people. It's not just a family farm. I mean, it is a family farm. It's not just like a corporation that's just trying to make money. It's we want to provide for the country and the world.
Yeah, Jason's a great guy. It's a true testament to doing solar in ways that strengthen a family farm and doing solar in ways that preserve farmland. The corner of the pivot just makes perfect sense.
Yeah, no, we just finished phase 2 with Jason, and he's very happy. He wants a phase 3. He has a lot of pivots out there in the desert in Nevada with the wells that they have. So the pumps are bringing up the water and using a lot of electricity that goes up in price. So it is a great use of the land that's not used in the corners of the pivots. So we'll see more of that, and it's an intelligent diversification. Mm-hmm. He's been great to work with.
Well, talk to me about that multi-phase approach, because I know that's something that a lot of our customers are repeat customers. And why does the multi-phase approach prove to be successful?
I think there's been a subset of the solar industry that has could be typified as like the pushy salesman type. Mm-hmm. Get the largest sale you can in as short a time as possible and be friendly, but then move on.
Yeah.
And, that certainly hasn't been our approach, because we know from being around farming our whole lives that there's a strainful economic reality on most farms. And so if you try to sell more than is economically feasible, our whole thing is how can we make this phase of solar saving money the least painful possible financially. And that way you can first not bite off more than they can financially chew. And that has been a common mistake. But then you gain trust in that process. This group, Jordan Energy and Food, is not trying to rip us off or just get a quick and big sale as they can. They care about the long-term relationship. So when you build that in the first phase, that's at a size and scale that is within the economic, feasible and wheelhouse of the farm, then you gain the confidence and they say, oh, well, we're at 35%. I'd like to get up to 60 or 70%. What would that take? So that becomes phase two. And now they're believers and they understand you're not trying to get them to overextend, which is a common problem in many businesses, farming included. But we're on in phase three with a lot of our customers that are getting to 100% with battery storage now included to really get at all of the costs. And then you're your own power company and you've just knocked out one of the top 10 expenses of doing business for any farm in America. So the multi-phase approach builds trust. It takes more time.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, you have a more loyal and dedicated customer relationship.
Yeah, and speaking of time, I think of Tom Puglisi. He was talking about the relationships that he and his family value and how they're, cross generations. And, they value that in their partnerships. And we're on, our fourth phase with them.
Yeah.
So.
No, that's true. And you just look forward to seeing each other, I mean, I think I told the story, at least in the office, if not in one of these previous podcasts, is I called up John Puglisi, one of the three brothers of the older generation, to schedule a lunch with him just to catch up. I always go by the Italian sub shop and get them meatball sandwiches and Italian hoagies and all. And he says, this Friday I can't do that. My mom's wake is this Friday. And I was like, oh my gosh, you had met the grandmother, right? His mother, when we did the interview, the day we did the interview with Tom. And so you and I went to the wake, and they were in the middle of the rosary, and we stayed and paid our respects and greeted everybody. We I think, built more relationship that's genuine by connecting on that human level with the customer. Then, it has to make financial sense, but people, when they start liking it and feeling like you care about their family, they're just going to be higher quality relationships. And they have a lot more phases to go, as do many of our customers, which is what I most enjoy in our business.
And at the end of the day, you guys pulled through and made everything work, and we got our first project up in 2022. And now we have our second project done, our third project coming up this year, and a fourth on the way. So we're really happy to be working with you guys and continue the partnership.
Makes me happy to hear that. Egg farmers have been doing
Rain
well.
FM is music scientifically proven to 10x your focus.
That's when I'm in charge that happens.
It actually happens a decent amount at the farmers interviews when they're at phones.
Oh, God. But, Tom's great. His whole family, the Puglisi's. I would say that there's a double-edged sword, too. While egg prices have led to some profitable times for egg farmers, they also have the avian influenza dynamic where you can have your whole flock wiped out in an instant.
Yeah.
And then you're in a 2-year, 3-year cycle to get back up to running business as normal. So I would say no subset of the ag sector is not without its high risk, but with the risk comes some reward and maybe some of the quality of life issues and topics that Ben mentioned earlier at the winery.
Yeah, no, Ben and Tom are great examples of that next generation really stepping up. And yeah, there's something to that. I know we've talked about it a bunch, but the conversations with farmers, especially family farms, when it includes the next generation and how those, mindsets and outlooks really impact the decision to move forward on, 25-year investment.
Yeah, I think it's pretty common that the younger generation is really enthusiastic about solar. And when an older generation sees that and they're concerned about wanting to see the farm be stronger economically and more stable and more diversified, they say, heck yeah, let's make this investment because it's going to strengthen this family business that we've worked our lives in, and, have the next generation now kind of stepping up so that us old guys can shift gears down a little bit when we get into our 70s or 80s.
You're not there yet, right?
I'm still going faster than a lot of people. Maybe not you. Well, maybe you. I don't know. Not
Maybe on the road.
Oh, jeez. Who has more tickets? You want to go there?
Parking tickets are different than speeding
You
tickets.
got a few of those to pay up.
Yeah, I know. Well, one thing I really want to go through, it's the beginning of the year, and you had a good start to the week in communicating with our team on raising that bar, and a big part of the start of a year and the end of a year, right? You look back on what you've accomplished and, set goals for the coming year. And, I think it would be a good point to check in on how this past year went, what are some reflections, and, what are goals moving forward for our team, our family, our communities.
Yeah. Well, 2025 had its challenges for sure for the solar industry in the United States. I think everybody in our industry would acknowledge that. I think personally, I've tried to articulate, there's two sets of things. There's things that you can't affect, even though you might try. We tried to get the budget bill to be more solar friendly than it ended up being. So you can blame the shortfall on accomplishments on things out of your control, policy issues in this administration. But then there's a subset of things about how intelligently do you pivot given new realities, and how do you execute. And those are in your control. And I think any well-run organization has people that are focused, coming to the work, knowing what their priorities are and getting them done, day in and day out, week in and week out. So in that pursuit of excellence, I ended 2025 disappointed. It was a break-even year. It wasn't a, breakout year like we had hoped at the beginning of the year. But I think speaking maturely to the current and new realities and making good decisions, but then biggest part of it is executing and people being in the right positions to execute on their strengths. I mean, that's always a point with Joe and Bill Colas at Five Crowns, their cousins. Joe was put in a role of sales at the early start of his career, and he always says the happiest day of my professional career was when they suggested I go out to the fields and work with my Uncle Tony, his Uncle Tony, who ran the field operations, and, it was a match made in heaven where his brother Bill Colas's strengths are around the sales side, and he knows how to grow fruits and vegetables like no one now, and is already passing on a lot of that knowledge to the next generation. I think when we interviewed him, he was turning 70 that day, right before the Eagles' Super Bowl victory.
This fly. Yeah, one thing that I really appreciated and just thought of pulling up here is the video that you mentioned at the beginning of the week when you did the presentation on 2025 and reviewed our goals for 2026 with Marcus Freeman and how he spoke to his team when they were 0-2 at the beginning of the season. And, I think there's a lot to that message of, nobody really, that's not completely true. People do, but, it's not a reality of our world where people will really oftentimes slow down to pat you on the back and help you wipe your tears if you're losing, right? There's something about looking in the mirror and moving forward and moving through things. And I think we do, as a culture, need to move to be more supportive of one another, but there is something of that, and I think there's something to that grit topic we talked about earlier. And what was his message? How did that impact you? And why did you show
I
it to the
decided
team?
to show it to the team because I think, one, he's an excellent leader. He's an excellent head football coach. So shout out to Here Come the Irish on Peacock and the way they highlight how he talks to the team is impressive. But the message is basically, let's own where we're at, and let's not point the fingers at others on the team. All of us have a role in us being 0-2,
Yeah.
and what are we going to do about it? Don't point to the guy who missed the field goal or muffed it, or did this. And I am the first one, as the head coach, to assume responsibility for that shortcoming. But what's important, he says, is what we do going forward as a team, and the team went on to go undefeated for the balance of the season. So I think there's two things there. I was trying to say it in the first week of the year to say, last year amounts to 0-2 in my mind. It's just break even. We didn't win any championships, but we have a great team. We have to perform, all of us, and own where we're at. And then that's how but then also, if you're at the beginning of a season, if you're at the beginning of the year, let's not take a cavalier approach. Let's fire out of the gate as fast and hard as we can with as much focus so that subset that is in our control gets, 100% execution. And I am trying to do that in my own day in the way we communicate, and then try to encourage our team to do that. So in that sense, it's a good analogy for the business world that he puts out there to his, players and coaches.
Yeah, I think
You're going to play it?
I think of it too. Yeah, I will play it. I think of it, in the sense of having a chip on the shoulder, right? And, that fire within, not to just be satisfied with bare minimum, but, strive for more.
I boycotted the Bowl Championship Series. We got screwed, to be honest, all you Irish fans. So we're going to come out like fire next year. There's going to be no losses at the beginning of the season because of what they did. And I have every confidence in our coaching staff. We're recruiting strong, but it ends up, you got to start the first game and not have that letdown, which has been a bit of a habit the last 2 or 3 years. I don't want to blame anybody in particular, but I think it's a good lesson as we try to be winning the balance of 2026 starting from day one.
Let's watch.
Ready? Yes. All right, let's roll. You all have to self-reflect and self-eval, okay? Every person in this room's got to say, okay, we didn't get it done, okay? Why? What didn't I do? What didn't I do? And how do we make it better? And until we have that mentality, guess what? We ain't gonna do this. Until everybody collectively says, okay, where did I fail? And not point your finger. Like I could come in here and sit here and go, hey guys, we're 5 points away from being 2-0. What's that gonna do? I mean, make me feel better? Make us feel better? The reality is we're 0-2. Don't hide from it. We're 0-2. That's where we're at. What are we gonna do to get out of it? I just told the captains, it's crazy how two people can see the exact same thing and have completely different opinions about what they saw. People outside of here, Notre Dame football is 0-2. Offense is great and the defense sucks. It's one person's fault. Buckner, it's your fault because you dropped Drake. It's your fault. It's Coach Astor's fault. It's Coach Freeman's fault. It's every person in this room's fault. It's every person in this room's fault. Everybody looks at last year, man, you guys had a great season. You guys been in that championship game. There was some pain. If you were in this room after Northern Illinois, that hurt. I'm telling you, we're gonna reach his full potential. But you gotta understand, there's gonna be some pain. We gotta go through it. You got a head coach, I swear to God, we'll go down swinging every day. There's only one way to go, and that's forward. And we gotta do it together, because that's what family does. And it starts with this opportunity on Saturday. Go get our first taste, okay? But it takes struggling and pain today and evaluating and owning it and making sure we do whatever it takes to get better. Everybody clear? Let's go to work. TJS on 2. 1, 2. Yes.
Kevin Spahn was funny. He goes, I wish you would have given that speech after we were 0-1.
Well, there's definitely something to sports and growing up in them, still playing rugby now, and what it means to have a coach that empowers you and inspires you. And I think it translates too into the business world, and starts at a young age for people, and having those lessons that move through us and impact our day-to-day lives is really important.
Yeah, well, I think we got to win the week, win the day.
Yeah, I mean that kind of made me think of mentors, and uh, I'm really excited to be able to talk with the co-authors, Elisa and Father Headley, tomorrow
Oh,
on from the Seeing Peace book project that we did together, and the mentor that he's been for me and Elisa too. Um, are there any mentors that come to your mind through the years that impacted you, inspired you, kind of led you in a direction that has you sitting here today?
I think first of Father Hesper, who was the president of Notre Dame for 35 years. He affected a lot of good in the world and in people's lives by uh, first being accessible, very busy guy, but always accessible, and then always being encouraging towards your ability to excel, to set high goals for yourselves, and then achieve them. He was very bipartisan. He worked for half a dozen presidents and 3 or 4 popes, and uh, you know, I reflect on what he would do in our time of tremendous polarization and conflict in the world right now, because he was a person that led by bringing people together, not pulling them apart. And so my prayer life includes, what would Father Hesper do in today's situation, in my own personal life, and then in the larger society that I'm living in.
Without a doubt. And I think those, situations happen day in and day out, right? That we have to face and how we respond to them. And part of what Marcus Freeman was saying there is, looking and learning from those mistakes and growing through them, and not just, pointing the finger, right? And I think that's a huge part of growth, right? I mean, I was writing a reflection on the past year and thinking about years in the past, couple years. It's there's a saying, there's no growth when, how does the saying go? Without any rain, there's no growth, right? So, people say when it rains, it pours, and today's definitely a day that symbolizes that with some of the things that are happening in our world. So, I think there's something to that of, growing through things with others.
Yeah. Well, you've got to be able to turn negatives into positives. So he wasn't pointing the finger. He was encouraging his team to take ownership of, being in a negative place and moving forward from there. So can't change what happened yesterday or maybe today up until now, but you can affect positive change on a daily basis, and that's part of becoming a success in whatever part of life you want to talk about.
Yeah, especially as a team, right? I think there's an aspect there where, when you're rooted in trust, rooted in kind of deeper values, as a team, you tend to, rely on each other when things don't go your way. And, when you're in that fire.
Yeah, I think there's a challenge to not articulate or emanate dissent, because it's easy to point the finger somewhere else. I think he did that in that rapid fire way that he had. And it was all to say, no, I'm the head coach. I take first responsibility, but everybody else has to own it in a way that makes us all better.
Yeah, so what are these goals that we're moving towards in the new year?
Well, we have clear financial goals that we're checking on a monthly basis, on a quarterly basis, and we have personal goals as well, SMART goals that we set out for each person on the team. That started in our November team building meeting, and it can either be forgotten or you can look at it every day. When you set goals like those, I think the probability of achieving them increases dramatically if you're looking at them. So everybody has the goals on the taskbar. Look at them at least once a day, and which ones are really your areas of responsibility towards achieving those goals. So financial is certainly one, but it's also the work-life balance that we have. Work hard, but also have the family values, and then support each other and hold each other accountable. So I like the goals that we have. We didn't make our goals last year, so I'm saying let's make the goals this year. And I think we've gotten off to a good first week of the year, but we want to go from good to great.
Yeah. I mean, speaking of the next week, we got some big things coming on the horizon, right?
Yeah, some travel. We got American Farm Bureau conference in Anaheim. We have this longstanding partnership with New York Farm Bureau, and I think some other states are looking at the same. And I think that core value of doing solar in ways that strengthen family farms is hard to argue with when it's a top 10 cost of doing business, and it's an intelligent diversification. And prices of energy are going up this year. We have all these data centers like no one's business. So we had a big customer of ours that has solar and has farms in a couple of different states say, I've just been told by my utility that I'm going to have a 5% increase year over year for the next 3 years. He calls us up and he says, let's get more solar on. Because, our projections were 2-3% escalation, and solar makes sense. But with all of the demand up, prices are going up faster, and solar is now lowest cost energy generation in the marketplace. So why not own it as opposed to paying the regulated monopoly that investor-owned utilities have been over the last decades.
Yeah, no, for sure. And I mean, that's reminds me of a video I was editing today with Max Wessel, where he was talking about how, looking into the future and mitigating those cost increases, solar just simply made sense, right? And how he and his farm have that long-term perspective and vision of planning, right? When they're doing apple trees, it's not for a year or two, it's for 30 plus years. And
yeah, I mean, everything we do has a long-term time horizon, especially apples being our main crop enterprise. Everything takes, years and years with the apple business. We're planting new plantings 2 to 4 years out, and then we won't get any fruit from those plantings for another 3 years. And then we hope, those apple orchards will last for 30 years. So the solar time horizon was really nothing new for the scope of our general planning process, so to speak. The biggest part for me was knowing what electricity costs right now and looking at what the trajectory is going forward. New York has, very aggressive climate leadership goals through their the recent laws that have been passed, and as the state and the country and everything continues to electrify, I think there's only supply and demand is going to take hold, which we've already seen. This past winter we got really cold. Power was a little bit of a concern, and utility costs can jump pretty high, pretty quick, so to speak. So being able to take a percentage of the load that's required to run this apple storage operation and be able to just almost negate that over the next 25, 30 years, that was definitely a big part of the planning considerations.
Max is great. So is his dad, Peter. We had a nice dinner celebrating with him and his wife when we installed. There's in a peak time of season, so they said it's kind of nice to go out to a nice meal. We're going to do that next week at Hoffman Dairy in Michigan, and turn on the switch. Dairy Farmers of America, a member, great new customer. It's nice to be able to thank folks directly that way. So looking forward to. They have childcare needs, so we're going to do lunch instead of dinner. That whatever works.
No, and I'm excited next week for meeting with ballet, right, with David and Suzanne, and sitting down with them and talking about their install and talking about some of these concepts, especially with an AFT and preserving farmland, and taking them out to dinner at the end of the night too.
Gotta eat.
Yeah, gotta eat good, right?
What you putting in your mate now?
This is actually something that Uncle Austin gave me. So.
That makes me nervous. Just kidding, Uncle Austin.
It's been good. It's energizing, but not too much at the end of the night. So
go get him. Podcast number 3. We got to get some interviews live with somebody on interview number 4.
I agree.
We could even change from the basement. This is where it all started. You don't have to come down.
No, I mean, going out and doing interviews with farmers is definitely a big highlight for this. And I think there's something about that relationship building too, to slow down and talk through things and have a check-in point.
Sounds good. Great stuff. Let's go get them in 2026.
Love it.